Your work week weather forecast is when we bring in experts in the field of meteorology to tell us exactly what is happening, what may rise from the ground in terms of heat, what may be coming down upon us in terms of rain, possibly even snow. I don't think that's a really good probability, but Landon Aidlet is the lead forecaster with the National Weather Service, and he is joining me right now in the KOM News Zoom room. And I noticed that he's got a rather fetching goatee that he has grown out. I'm assuming it's because we had such good island weather this past weekend. Landon, good look on you, man.
Yes, it was a very busy weekend. Oh my gosh. And how much roof did I paint over the weekend? Actually, none. It was beautifully dry and sunny for most of the weekend, but I
You didn't
was
get any of
down
it
at,
done.
I got none of it down. I was down on the surface, bush cutting the yard and dealing with yard work and starting up a garden. Hopefully, I'll
A
have
man needs his
fruits and
priorities.
vegetables. Yeah, and also change some light fixtures on the house. So I have some good friends that helped me yesterday afternoon, evening, and we were changing a lot of fixtures. So the house lights up so much better now than what it used to be.
Well,
But
you know,
overall,
good on you for getting your getting your garden in order because the soil is very very fertile over there in Estumbo. So like, can't wait to see how it turns out.
right now I got a lot of limestone growing in the side yard, so I gotta change that to something more edible. But it
Okay.
was a
Well,
beautiful weekend. Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
I was gonna say let's recap because I mean it was perfect island weather, no real rain to speak of, and yet it was sunny, but it was kind of cool too. It didn't feel like overbearingly hot.
Yeah, and some of the temperatures, definitely yesterday, you might break a little bit of a sweat, but yesterday's high temperature was only 85 degrees. So with that breeze and the cooler temperatures, that felt really pleasant outside. It was a great day to open up the windows to your house, let the wind blow through your house, air things out. It was great, especially in the shade. Yesterday's low temperature was 76 degrees. Now, where does that place into the climate averages? Well, normally we're up to 86, so we're just shy of normal with a normal low of 75. So we're right on par with average over the last 30 years. But the record high was 89 set back in 1964, 72 in 2008. And the average or the record low was 71 last set in 2003. So this is the time of the year that we see those daily record low temperatures from time to time. And that's with those shear lines dropping down across the region. Then things will settle down, the winds clear out. It's very calm and cloud-free skies, and those temperatures just plummet several degrees where we can see those nighttime lows bottom out around like 69, 68 degrees in the extreme conditions. And at that point, you might have some chills, but it feels so great otherwise compared to the 89s and 90s. So tis the season. You also notice a couple of changes since last week. The rainfall has been very lacking. We've got maybe a tenth of an inch of rain over the last week. I think we reached a monthly total rainfall of 13.66 inches earlier last week. We've only creeped up to about 13.73 inches as of last night. And that's not going to change much in the coming days as the January dry season period is upon us. And this is what we're looking at on the visible satellite picture. We got some clouds passing by, but there's really not much moisture coming from these clouds. They're just zipping by. And at most, you might see a sprinkle or a brief light shower, more so overnight. Down south, that's where you're most likely to see the showers really producing wetting rains, but that's well to our south. Otherwise, upstream of us to the east, not much, just a typical stratocumulus trade wind clouds and pattern well east of us. And that's going to continue through this week, through this weekend, and very likely into much of next week with current conditions not changing much. The abundant tropical moisture is well to our south near Palau. So if you have friends and family in Palau and they're talking about excessive rainfall, they've had over a half foot of rainfall over the last 24 hours. And that's with this deeper tropical moisture down there. Is there a storm developing? Absolutely not. So if you have friends and family down in Palau and they're talking about possible storms, tropical storm or typhoon, that is not the case. It's just more of a tropical moisture, converging winds down here with westerlies coming into the south and the trade winds zipping along from the east. And so you get this area of converging winds, you get showers and thunderstorms, and that's what they're dealing with over there. We could see a weak circulation of sorts developing to the west of Palau and then going on into the Philippines as part of a shear line that's going to be dropping down. Any impacts for us? Absolutely not from that system, but upstream of us, all trade winds. And so the moderate to breezy trade winds that we're seeing right now, that's going to continue through this week into next weekend with probably not even a half inch of rain over the next 10 days. But of course, stay tuned because things can and do change here in the tropics in the order of several days. But right now at the airport, we're clocking in sustained winds of 21 miles per hour, gusting up to 30 miles per hour. So that does prompt some sea and surf conditions. We do have a small craft advisory in effect through 6 p.m. tomorrow evening, Tuesday, that may be extended based on wind and wave conditions for winds of 15 to 25 knots, gusting to 30, and combined seas of 7 to 10 feet. That may continue and be extended through several more days this week with little change in overall conditions. High risk of rip currents through tonight. That also may be continued for east facing reefs. That's Jeff's Pirates Cove, Paget Bay, Marble Cave, all of those areas along eastern Guam and the CNMI. And that will continue at least through late tonight. So do not be jumping off any cliffs or on the reef shelf over there.
I got a question for you, Lennon, real quick about the terminology that you and your coworkers tend to use, because we've been hearing it so long. We've probably gotten used to it at this point. But when you say there's a high risk of rip currents or unfavorable weather, is that more a probability or a possibility that we could actually have like very, very dangerous and possibly life-threatening water conditions?
Yeah, definitely a possibility. And so that's really when we're starting to see surf breakers upwards of 9 feet or greater along east-facing reefs. That means that those rip currents are there and that it's likely to be very strong and can pull you off the reefs. So if you're anywhere in the waters along eastern Guam, watch out because those waves can come up on the reef shelf in the inlets and bays and pull you right back out before you know what's happening.
Right. Okay. So with the winds expected to be really kicking up and everything, you want to stay out of the water, as Landon just said. He says this all the time, ladies and gentlemen, but he's doing it for your safety and for mine. So maybe stay out of the water with the winds kicking up. But this would be a great time to go buy a kite and fly that kite.
It's definitely a good time to swim in Tumon Bay. So anywhere there's a lifeguard, you have the sheltered bay area, and again, those waves are coming in from the east. So anywhere on north and west facing reefs and bays and beaches, that's where you're most likely to be safe. Anywhere in Tumon, again, with the lifeguards, because all the waves, they're coming, the large trade wind swells coming from the east, barreling right into eastern Guam. But Tumon Bay, of course, you see is very snuggled right in there. So that's the best place to be. East Agana Bay, Tumon Bay, anywhere there's lifeguards presence, that's where you want to be at any time you're swimming in the waters.
I'm supposed to be an objective journalist, but I'm going to go ahead and just say I absolutely am biased towards Tumon Bay. I lived there for a very long time. It's the best place on Guam. That's my home. So Tumon Bay all the way.
Yeah, I agree. Beautiful over there.
Okay, so I want to shift gears a little bit, right? Because your models. I have a challenge for you actually, and when you show us those wonderful graphics and the animations, your forecasts tend to look maybe 7 days into the future, 10 days even into the future. I want to ask you if you're able to project about 22 to 23 days into the future, because I'm wondering if you're able to tell us what the weather will be on Valentine's Day, because me and maybe Joe Sir and Mike and a couple of my coworkers, we may have plans that night.
Well,
climate-wise, an umbrella.
Climate-wise, we are looking mighty fine for Valentine's Day. But as far as our computer models, they realistically go about 16, 17 days in the future. And then really in the tropics, beyond 5 days, you just don't pay much attention to the models except for larger trends and themes. So based on climate averages, Valentine's would be a great night for gushing emotions. So hopefully it's good emotions.
you can serenade someone. You can have
winds of joy.
But you know what? If it does happen to rain and rain very, very heavily as it did for the first half of this month, you can do the whole like gondola thing.
I would prefer a rainy Valentine's. I think that would be more suiting. Just torrents of rain and weather. Of course, that's my preference.
We can make gondolas happen on Guam. I mean, we'll probably have to use like the stand-up paddle, but
maybe in Nan Madal.
Oh, nice.
Nan Madal in Pompeii. That would be a
very,
great
very
venue.
Cool. Okay, but what is the science behind the fact that you can project either 7 days or maybe like a week and a half? Why have forecasters always traditionally used those 2 days?
Yeah, it's really based on the model handling, and of course with tropical cyclones, there's always we always show the error cone, and that's just a matter of how much tropical cyclone forecasts have varied over the years. And so that error cone has gotten tighter and tighter as models get better, but it's just a matter of how different forecast models handle different parameters. And so we weigh in a variety of different forecast models. Some handle developing tropical cyclones better. Some handle wind speeds and intensification trends better. Others handle rainfall and precipitation better. So we weigh in all these different models, but a lot of these models do better in the mid latitudes with the stateside weather. They handle things almost textbook accurate with 5 and 7 day ranges. But here in the tropics, things vary. And so that's why we always maintain that things can and do change rapidly in a short period of time. That's where our condition of readiness is always set at core 4, meaning that damaging winds are possible within 72 hours. Whether it's likely or not, that's a different story, but it's possible. Things can and do change. And sometimes in the wet season, as a forecaster, I'm looking at my forecast and I don't have a clue what's going to happen 12 hours from now because things vary so much. We've seen incoming weather patterns coming right at us and they fall on our doorstep and dissipate. So we are always monitoring, we're always watching, we're a 24/7 operation because of those changes, those variations.
Absolutely understood. Okay, before I let you go, because we're running out of time, but I wanted to maybe get a book recommendation from you, if I may, good sir. Right? For those of us who don't really understand, the science, but we watch this show all the time. We follow you on all of the social media platforms, and you keep us well advised of what's going on. Do you have an introductory book for those of us who would like to get into, the art of weather watching? And he has one, of course.
Yes, this is my freshman college
I thought
book,
you were breaking out Dianetics for a moment. I thought that was Scientology. No, that's meteorology.
Yeah, no Scientology, just meteorology. But this was my favorite textbook in college, really, because I don't want to say it, but it has photos and color pictures in there.
Right on. Well, we had the same undergraduate experience and everything. I became a very big fan of fermented barley and hops, let's just say, when I was an undergrad.
This is a very thorough book, and I'm not sure what edition it would be on at this point, but it's Meteorology Today, and it's introductory to all parameters of weather, atmospheric science, climatology, weather, flooding, rainfall, mid-latitude cyclones, tropical weather. It's very thorough, very in-depth, and it gives you a great background to weather and climate. And I'm trying to figure out what else I have back here on my shelf, but I have so many books up here, including things that I inherited from Chip Gard when he retired. So a lot of great books, but anything for our region, Meteorology Today, but anything tropical weather related. There's a great book on the shelves on Micronesia tropical cyclones. And it gives a good perspective to climatology.
And this is why you are the very, very best in the business, because you give us, not only weather forecasts, but, the science behind it and really, really good literary recommendations and everything. So yeah, I'm sure that book's available on Amazon. So I'm going to go pick up a copy, and you can test me maybe in 2 weeks after I make my way through it. Me and Joseph.
Sounds good to me.
All right, that's Landon Islet with the National Weather Service. Make sure, everybody, to pick up that book, Meteorology Today. And if you don't want to fork out the money, then make sure to follow the NWS on all of their social media platforms. Yes. It's the next best thing. So, Landon, have a good day, man.
Thank you, Jason.
All right, please stay tuned. We are going to get you up to speed
on the entertainment beat when the hotspot continues.